Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of
Rooted and Rising. Yes.
Welcome to our women's podcast. I hope you got our first one down. Kind of have an idea of who we are now.
Yes, exactly. This is exciting. I'm glad we're doing it casual.
Yes.
The other
Cozy.
podcasts are, much more, I don't know, structured.
I didn't even put on makeup today. Here I am. I love it.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I mean, that's
And I'm kind of in my pajamas.
Me too.
I know it's comfy and
I bought 10 of these matching sets because they were only like $10 a piece.
I know.
But I wear them every day. They're amazing.
Right?
And it's like cool and stylish now to be cozy, which I love.
I remember buying my first one and I got it for travel and was so comfortable and got so many compliments on it.
People love them. They're always like, oh, you look so cute today. I'm like, I'm literally wearing pajamas.
Right.
Thank you.
And so someone called me out on it and said, that is the cutest pajama set. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am traveling in pajamas.
Yep.
And then somebody else kind of piped in that was close and said, those are lounge sets. And I was like, okay, we'll call them a lounge set. I think I'm a little bit more.
Next week I'm doing branding photos for the year. And I think I'm going to wear a lounge set. I might do 2 outfits, like one that's a little more nicer and do like a loungewear set because I want some branding photos that are a little more cozy and casual.
Yeah. Awesome.
But yeah, so I wanted to interview you today.
Okay.
And I want to get to know you more, obviously, and because I don't know everything about you. Every time you tell me a story, I'm like, oh, I've never heard that one before. I didn't even know that.
There is 59 and a half or quarter years in here.
Well, it's like in last episode, I said that I was from Yale, and you were like, what? Like,
I know.
How did you know that about me?
And I love Yale. I love Muggsy. So, so let's get to know each other and let our audience get to know us.
So this episode, I'll be interviewing Suzanne, and then maybe next time you can interview me, and you guys can get to know us a little bit better before we get all deep and dark and mysterious on this podcast. Because that's the goal.
Rooted and Rising.
Yes. So tell us who you are, what you do, and kind of how you came to be where you are today.
Wow. Okay.
Let's do a synopsis.
Okay.
And we'll go deeper from there.
Daughter, sister, wife, mother, Gigi, business owner. I'm a daughter of the Most High King. I absolutely have a wonderful love relationship with the Lord. And that's all evolved in these 59 and a quarter years. I am born and raised in Southern California. Was in a very bad car accident, lost my my memory and the ability to read and write, and started over when my kids were 4 and 2. And financially, at the time, I worked at Bank of America, following in the footsteps of my mother, who was the first vice president of Bank of America, female, in Orange County, California.
That's crazy.
Yeah, she broke the ceiling there, and never wanted to follow in her footsteps. I wanted to do travel and be in the more of the restaurant travel industry, but that quickly came to an end when you're most busy in travel and holidays. Mm. And so being at the hotel, you're most busy on the weekends and on holidays. I'm like, I'm literally helping everybody celebrate these, and my life is going by. So I went into the banking industry and then fell in love with it.
So you started in the hotel industry?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yep. Embassy Suites down in Fashion Island in Newport Beach. And absolutely loved it because people are happy when they're vacationing, typically. And so we always had great, it was just always fun. And then those first Christmases hit, and then the weekends, and life is going by, and you're like, oh, geesh, this isn't fun. Right. I'd rather be on the other side of it. So maybe I'll do a travel agent or be a flight attendant. And then while I was going to college, it was easier to start working at the bank 10 to 3 and taking night classes. So that's how that happened. Fell in love with numbers and educating people, and quickly went from being a teller over to the carpeted side, which was the platform side. Mm-hmm. And back then, those, and it still is, banks are beautiful. They had such nice furniture. It was so, plush. And I had a lady that sat behind me, Flo, and anytime anybody wanted to close their checking account or savings account, they had to come see me. And then my whole goal was to keep them with their relationship with the
like
bank,
retention.
send them to Flo. And so I would listen to Flo talk to them about these investments. I'm like, man, I want to do that. And so breaks, lunches, stuff like that, I talked to her and started really getting a bug for not just CDs and savings accounts. Did real estate loans, was very good at that. Met and exceeded all my goals.
So you did like mortgages? Okay.
And of course was constantly people wanting to close their accounts because they could go somewhere else and get a bond or all that, and started learning that. Was in my car accident and couldn't go back to work. Didn't know even how to do my hair, my name, how to write, any of that. Wrote a book. That's what my pastor told me at the time. Him and his wife had written many books, Turn Your Test to a Testimony. Wrote a book. It got published. And so I was, oh, this is cool. And I've got a lot from it. I have been able to talk to women's groups. WOW was one of them, and MOPS, Mothers of Preschoolers.
You still make money off that book?
No.
Okay. I'm just curious.
So it's like, okay, you need to travel and sell the book. And I was like, oh, never had that in the plan. And when I would talk to people around me, I was always so embarrassed. And so I was reading the Wall Street at lunch, reading the Wall Street Journal at home. I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, Diet Pepsi, and a bag of Lay's potato chips, and thought, I'm going to call the Wall Street Journal.
Okay.
And so got on the computer, I think back then, which took forever on dial-up, got the headquarters of but I always thought I'd rather go make an idiot of myself somewhere else.
Right.
So I did. She said yes. I could do the speaking at the Wall Street Journal in California if I would take these other 5 states. I just had to fly there. Okay. So did that, started with the Wall Street Journal doing speaking engagements, and then Metal Container Corp, which was the lid to Diet Pepsi's. Never got Lay's. And that's where kind of my whole thing started, and just started traveling. And I thought it was so nice to go up and just be myself, and nobody knew me. Right. And then offered my services. So what I would do is go help the HR person just educate their employees on their 401k, and then offer services. If anybody wants to meet with me outside of work, I will do analysis for you, a needs analysis, and started getting business that way. And then got a speaking. Somebody asked me to come out to Oklahoma for a vacation. I was in the throes of traveling and doing speaking engagements, and said if I could speak out in Oklahoma. Yes. So she tore a page out of the yellow pages, faxed it to me. I called the top one, a church in Grove, Oklahoma. And they said, yes, we've been praying and fasting for this. You're an answer to prayer. And I was like, really? So flew out, met them. It was just all divine, and didn't even have to interview anybody else, because I thought this will be my excuse to the publisher for, I need to go out here and do the speaking engagement. It was a huge success. Normally where I would be somewhere 3 to 4 days, I speak and then do workshops and help them. 17 days later, left Oklahoma, only to realize that I definitely wanted to live out here. Okay. And for multiple reasons. One was in a not a good marriage, and he said if I moved, he wouldn't come. So I was like, well, there you go. And then that's a whole other episode. So did that, moved out here, wasn't here but a few weeks, and my biological father got in touch with me and said, where are you? What is this number? I want to reconnect with you, and I want to meet my grandchildren. I said, I am in Oklahoma. And he asked if I knew where Grand Lake was. And I said, yes, sir, I'm looking at it when I'm talking to you. He said, well, I was born there during a fishing tournament that your grandpa was in. And I was raised in the city called Sapulpa, if you ever find it. Oh. So fast forward at my office, an office in Sapulpa a few years ago. Ancestry DNA pulled up the census, like we did a little rabbit trail, and he was like catty corner from the office that I was in Sapulpa. Oh, so all those kind of synchronicities, this has been my promised land for sure. And so
you were in banking, had your accident, and then during that time, you started using your testimony to sell investments?
Yes.
Is that kind of how that works?
Life insurance. Based on what happened during that accident, I had a life insurance policy, and we were putting extra money in it every single month to build a savings account. When my accident happened, it was the 23rd month of overpaying on that to build the savings, and I called, and they said, because I needed the money, and they said, no, we keep the first 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
And so that took me down a rabbit hole.
So you wanted to educate people.
Oh my gosh, this is not good. My auto insurance, I had uninsured. The kid who hit me was 14 years old and had been his third car accident. And so on that State Farm policy, they had an exclusion that they would only pay $10,000 out if he ever stole the car again, because that was his third time.
Right.
And I didn't have underinsured. I just had uninsured.
Right.
So that was another chapter, like make sure that you get the right insurance. So all that, I mean, it came down to the fact, oh, my health insurance, I had Kaiser Permanente through the bank, had to make sure if you're coherent, I was coherent. I just, I could answer their questions. The paramedics, Oliver's like, I want to get in on this conversation. It was my responsibility to tell them they needed to take me to a Kaiser Permanente facility. Instead, they took me to a local hospital, La Palma Community Hospital, for the night. I was responsible financially for that first night.
Okay. So
guy ran the red light and hit me, and within seconds, I had $64,000 in debt. And so everybody kept saying, you just need to declare bankruptcy. That's just not okay. Right. That wasn't okay. Yes, I ended up having to do it. It was absolutely devastating to the ego, and it was just life seems so unfair. But now I can meet people and say, I don't care where you're at financially. I have been there. I have done that. Right. And you're not defined by it. And it's going to be okay. You'll learn from it. And so that's what I did. Took my test, turned it into testimony. So that's what brought me out to Oklahoma. That husband, then he followed me out here. That was in 2001. June 2nd, 2013, I fled that 25-year abusive marriage and started all over again. I had no idea the day that I got out with my life that I was a victim of identity theft and our daughter. So that was the second. On the 14th, everything was seized by the government. No car. They took everything but 10 cents out of my checking account. No professional license. They were all suspended and then revoked because he forged our name. Right. So that took about 2 years to get all that turned around. And every day was like, manna, what's gonna hold today? And so
what did you do during those 2 years?
A lot of pacing and walking and reminding myself of his faithfulness and staying in joy through the tears. And like you were talking on that first episode of just being present. And I know that money is an energy, and I knew it back then, and I knew God would provide. It was just showing up every day, hopeful. Right. The only way to do that is to stay in the Word of God and keep filling your cup. So The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, just books I would just fill up. And then a friend needed her yard mowed, or a friend was going on vacation and needed someone to house sit. And I didn't know what the future held. I just knew who held it. And I knew, like, someone said, what do you want for your birthday? And someone would say, oh, why don't you get cash? No, I want a keychain. Mm-hmm. I want a keychain because I'm going to get a car. And people will look and laugh, and they're like, you don't have anything. Right. What today looks like doesn't matter. It's where I'm going, and I'm going to enjoy every day. So to be honest with you, I look back at those couple of years and I'm like, whoa, that was like a blur almost. But I met the love of my life, broke, busted, and disgusted. All I had was myself. And I'd been working on myself for so many years prior to that. Like, I physically lived with this other human. I mentally and emotionally, we were done. Mm-hmm. He knew that, and we knew that. I mean, we kept saying, let's just end this amicably. Right. Had no idea he'd do what he did and stole identity and money. And so that's where Phoenix comes from. My company is Rising from the Ashes. Being in that woman's shelter and around other women like myself, there was 75% of them had stitches and bandages and bruises. I didn't. I was tore up, broke, busted, and disgusted on the inside. Mm-hmm. Like, who was I really married to? How did I stay so long? Why did I fall for it? And then fast forward a couple years later is when, in 2015, watching Harry Potter and watching the Phoenix burn, and the professor telling Harry that it has to burn, it has to go to ash to be reborn, to take flight. Mm-hmm. And it will be more beautiful and more magnificent and better. And the tears from the Phoenix will heal others. And I was like, whoa. I want my tears to heal others. And so I wanted to start on my journey. And really, you just put one foot in front of another and you do that. And I kept going. I can tell you, not until some of the actually one of the worst things that could have ever happened in my life, when my dad unexpectedly died, I was just shocked. He was a full manifestation of God's love. I had prayed that man in. He came in my life when I was 18, and that wasn't the plan. He wasn't supposed to leave this earth when he did,
right,
in my eyes. But now I look back all these years later, and I'm like, he had to for me to be who I am today.
Right.
To be really rooted and grounded in who I am and in rising into the woman I'm supposed to be. So, yeah. So
you, all that got cleared up around 2015 and you started this?
Yes. So,
it says in Phoenix. We're sitting in your office right now, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah. So somebody, everybody kept calling in those 2 years and saying, I need help and I need this. Cause you build a business.
Right. Build relationships.
And I'm like, not right now. And so just divinely, somebody called and said, I have somebody that needs to talk to you. She was unfortunately laid off at her job, and she feels alone and scared. And she's got, they gave her what we call a golden parachute. Well, that's the only job she'd ever had. And she was an Indian woman. And Leslie, if you're listening to this is her. Love her dearly. I just went into that mode of, you're not alone, sister. And I started talking to her on the phone, and she said, I need to go into this meeting and I'm scared to death. They're all men. Right. It was a it's a gas company. And I said, no, I'll meet you in the parking lot. And she said, you would drive in and do that? And I said, yeah, I'm borrowing someone's car right now. Like, yeah, I'll come in. And so borrowed the car, came in, and I just said, no, you're not alone. And we went in, and they said, who are you? And I said, I'm her financial advisor, her financial professional. And they said, you're going to have to sit out here. You can't go in there. And I said, she's not going in there alone. Right. And you can leave the door open and I'll sit out here in a chair. So they drug the chair out, put it by the door, tried shutting it. And I was like, that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And right then I really felt purposeful. Like, this is what I'm going to do. Women aren't going to do this alone anymore. And in all that, discovered 98.6% of people will stay in unhealthy relationships because they don't financially know a way out. And I'm like, man, that pinged. I didn't know how to financially get out of what we were in because everything was intermingled. We were actually 29 years together.
I see that all the time on, the Facebook groups for moms, moms who want to leave and they feel like they can't.
Because you don't know financially, and then all of a sudden it's all gone. And then you're like, okay, we're going to figure this out. And because I did that, I wanted to then just keep paying it forward and be what I didn't have. Mm-hmm. And really empower. And now, to be honest, I'm seeing women and their husbands transition because they do statistically transition well before the woman. And it's just been in this last 24 months where it seems like, God, universe, source brings these couples through to me. Mm-hmm. The man is so used to dealing with a male advisor. So like Mark will be in the meeting, who's in our office, and they then leave with a sense of peace, both of them. The women know that they can come in. They're seen, they're heard. I know I've been here, done this. I can help them. I'll guide them holistically. And the husband's relieved because all he's done is linear. He's only worried about his wife. But who's his wife going to go to when something happens to him or if something happens to him? So that really took a life, that inward desire took a life of its own. So that's where we're like really into holistic financial planning and organizational. Women like to be organized.
You guys do a little bit of everything, right?
Yes.
Insurance, investments.
We start out with estate planning. I'm like, because to be honest, I used to be more transactional. Somebody would call and say, hey, I've got this 401k needs to be transferred. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'll do that. And that's super important. We need to make sure, because I do all that and then something unexpected would happen financially and everything would crumble if they didn't have their estate plan in place. So I'm like, hey, let's do a DIY. Let's get on the computer and figure out how to get you a trust, durable power of attorneys, and medical directives. And then finally just hired somebody and said, hey, I've got somebody in the office that'll do that if you don't want to. And then we'll put it in a file folder. We'll keep a copy of it. And then let's get everything changed, all your beneficiaries changed to this trust. We're in the know the whole time, so then we can help you. I have nothing against them going to an attorney. especially the more complicated.
Right.
Super important it gets done. So that's where we do our base. And then from there, like, okay, now life insurance. What happens if something happens to one of you?
Mm-hmm.
Are you relying on each other's income? What kind of life insurance? And then retirement planning. So, yes, Medicare. As I get older and a lot of my market gets older, man, there is a Medicare maze out there. And there's that transition into retirement
That was my hardest part of my health and life test was the Medicare. It's like, I do not understand.
I know. And I
still don't understand.
I joyfully anticipate demystifying it for you because it really is simple.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh, they make it so complicated. And then I just learned at that conference, I knew there was some sort of a carrot for people to sell Medicare Advantage because it doesn't either cost the person anything, or they're doing rebates. They're giving them $20 a month if they do Medicare Advantage, and I'm like,
interesting.
Instead of Medicare supplements, which is normally about $100 a month, they pay them $11,000 in commission if you put them on Medicare Part C.
Huh.
If you're on the government's program.
Right.
So the people that have been put on that buy into that or get their $20 a month credit, when they get sick and they get into these facilities, and like right now we have a gentleman, he had a ruptured disc, got treated wrong, so he's paralyzed from the chin down. Medicare C wants to send him home. Mm-hmm. He's not married. And he doesn't have anybody to take care of him. They had someone there to deliver the bed and the apparatus to get him from the bed to, to move him and stuff. But you have to have a human to do all that. So,
right.
Anyways, I can go on tangent. So yes, we do all that.
You're like a one-stop shop.
Yes. All things financial.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. And so then we just moved to Broken Arrow from all that. So Grove, Beggs, Broken Arrow. And then you went from Yale to Sand Springs?
So I grew up in Yale. I went to college for a year at Oklahoma Baptist. That's in Shawnee. Yeah. So I went there for a year. College life was not for me. I wanted to work, wanted to have an apartment, do my own thing. So I ended up moving from there. I moved home for a little bit, but then I moved to Sand Springs, had a little tiny apartment in a family friend's house. It was kind of like a little efficiency apartment, super cheap rent. It was a great place to start out because I had somebody there to look after me. But then it moved to Broken Arrow.
And I never knew that.
Yeah, I lived in Broken Arrow for a year at the Greens Apartments.
Okay.
With a roommate. So when I lived there, I met my husband. And then me and my roommate ended up moving to a rent house in Jinx because we both lived or worked over there at the time. And that was when I got into education for a short stint. But from there, she was getting engaged, moving on with her life. I had been with my husband for about a year, so ended up moving to his house in Skytook, and then we ended up getting married and having a baby and having another baby, and
there you are.
That's where we are. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then, of course, your generation's all into social media, and that's how I found you, thank goodness.
Yes, Facebook.
Yeah.
The Bong group.
Yes.
What does BONG stand for? Business Owners
Networking Group.
Okay.
Because I had somebody that said, hey, why don't you join BONG? And so BONG in my generation in Huntington Beach was, it was a device to smoke marijuana.
Yeah.
And I'm like.
I mean, it still is.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
It still is. I'm like, nope, probably not interested in a BONG at this point in my life. Wasn't even back then. And they said, no, Business Owners Networking Group. And I was like, that's cute. That's
good.
I've
heard great things about it.
Yes.
I know a lot of people who are super involved and like go to the meetings and stuff. People are always messaging me wanting me to go, and I'm like, it's just not my season right now. I got 2 little babies that can't go with me to things like that. So maybe eventually I'll get more involved. But the Facebook group is great. I like to hop on there just for get my name out there or getting suggestions on when I need somebody. So that's how we connected.
It seems like a good friends group. Yeah, and I saw that and I was like, ooh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you interviewed me. We're kind of wrapping up to another.
Yeah, I wanted to, before we hit the end of our 30 minutes, I wanted to just kind of touch on like your work-life balance and what your personal life kind of looks like as it intertwines with your professional life.
Right. Well, here's hope for you because, not hope, but like how you make time to balance yourself, your career, and your children. I'm in a season now where I'm a Gigi, and so I get that wonderful opportunity to have her when on the days dad's at the station and mom's busy and working full time. And so it's just, I kind of carried, I mean, I had obviously about, 10 years there where it was just me working, but now I get to balance all of that out. So I make sure my cup is full in the morning of coffee. And
me too.
Yes, I have my prayers I read. I have my I have a stack of books and grab a chapter and read it. Just make sure that mental cup is full. I'm super protective of I had our pastor tell me years ago, all of our gates, so my eye gate, what I'm watching, my ear gate, what I'm listening to, what I'm speaking, and just I make sure they're full in the morning and protect them during the day. And then I get to be, I have the privilege of being a wife again to an amazing man and get to enjoy that and travel. So it's just, man, I haven't perfected it because I do feel like I mentally am always thinking about work and my clients.
Yeah.
And I justify it because they're like my family.
Right.
And so they're always really close, and I'm constantly asking source, what do I need to do? Who do I need to contact? Because I do feel like I've been gifted them as clients, and that they've come in my life for a reason and a purpose. And so that's why when people say, oh, we can do billboards for you and we can do all this advertising. No, I like the organic way that we've done it and slow and easy. And then I get to have interviews with people and talk to them and make sure it's a good fit, because if they want to be super aggressive and they want crypto, I'm not your gal. I have nothing against crypto and all that, but it's got a place.
It's not your thing.
No, I can talk about it and I can tell you what I've heard about it, but that's not part of a plan I put together. So
I love having clients who I connect with, like on a personal level. So many of my clients that are repeat clients are people who I met years ago, and we've just stayed kind of in the same era of life. A lot of them have babies that are the same age as mine, and we just connect.
Right.
I don't really necessarily want to work with the 21-year-old bride who hasn't started her life yet, because we're not going to connect like that.
If I had anything for women, I want them to love the life they live, whatever that looks like to them. Mine was Italy last year, and traveling and being so close to family and being such a good part of my granddaughter's life and stuff like that. And that's my life that I love to live, and that might not be everybody's.
So you're in your happy era.
I am in my happy, yes. Absolutely. Yes. And I think you are too.
I am.
As a mama?
Yeah. I'm figuring it out, and what that era looks like changes every day, it seems like. But I'm okay with that now. I used to not be okay with that.
Well, it's judgment. I had to chuck that out. Like, you can't, being on social media, you cannot compare what you see.
Right.
I have people, and we talked about this before, I've had people that are like, you just had a phenomenal last year. And I'm like, it was absolutely amazing, but definitely had its heartbreaks. And it's not,
every year does.
Don't put that on social media.
Yeah.
Because we all have them. So, all right. Well, I think we got to wrap it up. We're at 30.
We can always talk forever. It's hard to stop.
I know.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll be back soon.
Yes.
Thank you guys for joining us for episode 2.
Yes, of Rooted and Rising.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Talk to you soon.